Tell about the next generation of Bulldogs. This is Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger.
Let's go, I'm a Bulldog. So Georgia,
Hello, DawgNation. Welcome in. I'm Kaylee Mansell with DawgNation recruiting insider Jeff Sentell. It is Georgia-Florida weekend where legends are born or legends die, but perhaps one Georgia player has already cemented themselves into Georgia-Florida history without having had a big game. You guys know Chauncey Bowens, right? The breakout running back for the Dogs this year. We're going to flash back to 2023 where Chauncey Bowens did something that a recruit has never done before, flipped mid-visit during a photo shoot from Florida to Georgia on the spot. That's someone that I'm excited to see what his performance looks like this weekend, just knowing the history between him and these two schools.
It's pretty funny. I think you see lots of the 2024 class there, Kaylee. This is a name from the past, Nyquavius Carr. Nycar, who was committed to Georgia at the time. This was an official visit photo shoot. And in the middle of it, everybody was like streaming, they were on their lives or whatever. And you caught Florida commitment, Chauncey Bowens flipping to Georgia in the middle of this. First of all, folks, never happened before, never seen this before, but this is how recruiting works. Kaylee, this was something in the summer of 2023, like in June of 2023. Kaylee, just imagine this football game this week if Chauncey Bowens never flips and the Dogs don't have access to him this year and he's on the other side with Florida. That would give Florida two all-SEC type backs.
I know it's easy to look at something like this and say, oh, well, it's staged or they knew, but you can just look at the reactions from everyone in that room and tell that they had no idea what was about to happen. I mean, obviously, that's a big get anytime you go into another state and pull one of their recruits, but now seeing what Chauncey Bowens has done for this team makes you a little bit more grateful that you're going to see him in red on Saturday.
The funny thing is Chauncey didn't even know how big it was. He didn't know Nye was streaming it on his story. So he's in there the next day meeting with Kirby on his official visit, and Kirby's like, all right, man, how's your phone doing? Are you ready for all the hate? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, it's all over social media. All the Florida fans are all on you. You just got to be ready for that noise, that negative noise from all the Florida fans for you flipping to the Dogs.
Oh, my gosh. I can't imagine Kirby Smart breaking news to me. I feel like typically it's got to be the other way around. So, anyway, I know a lot of Georgia fans are excited to have Chauncey Bowens back at full health this Saturday and thought that was a fun little way to start off Before the Hedges. But we've got a whole show planned for you. So, what we're going to do, we're going to try to take your worries and dial them back. These are all the things that you need to know before you really get down that Jared Curtis rabbit hole. Jeff's going to tell you why you shouldn't be that concerned. Also, we're going to have a DawgNation conversation with a top 2027 prospect. It's the 4-star offensive tackle Joshua Sam-Epelle, who is here in the state of Georgia. We're about to move on to 2027s pretty soon here in a couple weeks. So go ahead and hear from one on today's show. Then also, as a quick five, just kind of now that we're at that back half of the season, we're going to do UGA's top performing freshmen, since we got to cover a lot of them in their senior years last year. Who's meeting the expectations? Who's surprised us the most? Then we'll do our Mansell's details, where we show the best highlights from the class of 2026. And of course, there's always one top performer. This one's going to be the dog of the week. And then next week wraps up the end of the month. So we'll have a dog of the month. So something to look forward to. But I mean, obviously the biggest news that's happened in Georgia recruiting over the last 2 weeks has been everything that's been going on with Jared Curtis. Took a visit to Vanderbilt, went to go watch one of their practices, and of course this sent some Georgia fans into a frenzy, but I don't think it was until last Saturday when this took place on College Game Day that Georgia fans really saw just how big of a deal this is. This is Nate Bargatze on College Game Day.
It's hard not to just remind Jared Curtis how much I would love for you to come to Vanderbilt. And we're local kids, become best friends, bud.
What a world that we live in when you've got really important celebrities using their own pool to talk to a recruit. And it's funny because it's hard to take the situation seriously considering that it's Vanderbilt, even though they're a different Vanderbilt today. But, I mean, honestly, I feel like we should just go ahead and shut all of it down. Does all of this mean anything at all, or should Georgia fans feel good about where things stand with Jared Curtis?
Yeah, there's a few things to unpack here. First of all, Kaylee, it is unprecedented because not only was he shouted out on game day, I think it was 3 times he was during the broadcast. Kirk Herbstreit even clarified it. But I think you see a lot. You see that clip because it shows what Vanderbilt is like on a college game day. First, they haven't been this good in 50 years, right? And like Georgia is on game day, twice a year? And it looks like the crowd, just the juice off of a Georgia game day is at least 4 or 5 times bigger than what you had there at Vanderbilt. Like there was a lot of open spaces there, and when they were on the quad or when they were on campus. First thing, Kaylee, to think about here is, number one is, I would say when you want to start, listen, I get you. Worry as much as you want. You can sit there and say, okay, this day and age, these recruits, I'm not going to get excited until they sign. First of all, before Vanderbilt needs to worry about flipping Jared Curtis, they need to re-sign Clark Lee to a massive deal, because I don't think anything's going to happen until Jared knows what he's getting into. Little backstories here I want you guys to know is, number one, his head coach is a Vanderbilt alum, played quarterback there at Nashville Christian. He goes to Nashville Christian earlier in the week to watch practice. It was because of Senior Shadow Day, where Jared's career is football. So he goes with his coach to watch a Vanderbilt practice. Then game day invites his team, not just Jared Curtis, to come to game day. So that's why he goes and shows up. Kaylee, everybody can say, you can stroke a big check, you can win Jared Curtis. You can win the Jared Curtis sweepstakes. Who's going to block for him? Who's going to give him the ball back? Who's going to score for him? Who are his weapons? Vanderbilt can't afford both. Lastly, another thing they're going to have to do at Vanderbilt is this team is made up of about 34, 44 juniors, fourth-year juniors, seniors. Those guys are all going to be leaving after this year, so that's a lot of churn with the transfer portal right there. And finally, one bonus topper, Kaylee, is it's pretty simple. He had the chance to be wooed by Vanderbilt all throughout his high school career. I believe I was told he took 2 visits total to Vanderbilt prior to this past week. If it's more money, Oregon offered more money. South Carolina offered more money. So there's a lot of reasons. I think the main thing there is Jared wants to find a place. This is what's been reiterated to me from the jump. He wants to find a place where he's surrounded by other future NFL guys, offense and defense, where it doesn't feel like he has to play superhero. He has to wear the cape. He has to walk on water each and every week to win a football game. That was what would happen if he goes to Vanderbilt in the SEC.
So there's 2 things here that I want to bring up, because I feel like if you followed this story pretty closely, you've seen Jared Curtis's comments, you would understand that he's not entertaining this at all. Yeah. It's just a lot of it has been circumstance-based. However, from the Georgia fan perspective, I feel like there is a right to be concerned because, number one, this is somebody who has already decommitted from the University of Georgia once, took it down to the wire with Georgia and Oregon. So it's one of those things that you forgive, but you're never going to forget. And on the other hand, and this isn't Jared Curtis's fault, but similar to the college game day experience and top level quarterbacks, with the Dylan Raiola situation and knowing that Kirk Herbstreit may have had something to do with it, maybe it's giving shades of that. And I want to say that Jared Curtis and Dylan Raiola are not the same person. This is not the same situation, but I can understand why it feels like maybe Georgia has been through something like this before, especially with Kirk Herbstreit kind of in the middle of it. And so when I ask you this, it really has nothing to do with the situation with Raiola, but part of the reason that maybe he went to Nebraska was because he knew he could play right off the bat versus he was going to have to not only wait for the Georgia job, but also compete for the Georgia job. And I know that Jared wants to play with future first rounders or guys that are going to play in the NFL, but it looks like Gunnar Stockton's probably going to come back. There's 2 more behind him. Is there a scenario where maybe Jared realizes that he wants that opportunity to play right away at a place similar to Vanderbilt? I don't think it's Vanderbilt, but that is something that they do offer, is when Diego's gone, that seems wide open. So is that potentially something that Jared, his priorities could shift to?
Yeah, a few things. Let me kind of dispel some Raiola stuff. First of all, I think Jared is a much better player than Raiola. Mm-hmm. Raiola was basically coming to Georgia because he thought Carson Beck would jet after the 2023 season. But also with the Raiola pattern, I got to bring this up because there have been many times where Jared Curtis could have left Nashville Christian and he didn't. He stayed there. Whereas with Dylan Raiola, he moved several times in high school. The last one of those was Buford. I think that was 3 high schools while he was in. There was one in Texas, there were 2 in Arizona, and then there was Buford. So that's the thing. And then also Nebraska had not only NIL dollars, but they had his uncle was the offensive line coach. His dad was an All-American there. Those are not those same ties there with Jared Curtis and Nashville Christian. The other stuff about that is, playing right away. I think where Jared wants to go, he knows he's not going to get the job right away. Mm-hmm. And now I'm not going to paint some fairy tale picture, Kaylee. I think he's got maybe 1 year of waiting and watching. and that would be next year with Gunner. Does Georgia, Bobo, do they find some ways to get him into games? Sure. But that's going to be really hard for him he'll have to find a way to be that next quarterback behind Gunner next year. But the other thing to remember, Kaylee, is Gunner, let's all knock on some wood here, but Gunner is a physical football player. And he opens himself up to shots, and he opens himself up to, not practicing for a couple days or putting on a thicker flak jacket for his ribs after a game. So I think, the backup quarterback at Georgia is always going to be more important with a guy like Stockton, who just throws his body on the line for the Dogs. And I mean that in a positive way, not a negative way. So, I think Jared has had 2 chances to look all around the country, and he's kept coming back to Georgia. That included Oregon, that included South Carolina, more money, maybe a quicker road than Georgia, but he still came back to Georgia, and I think that means something.
Well, when you've got a quarterback like Jared Curtis, 5-star, top of the rankings in that Nashville area where he probably does know some famous people, we've seen it with Luke Bryan too, this is not going to be the last time that a Jared Curtis story pops up. The numbers and impressions on anything involving his name are huge, and so we've got a couple of months still till signing day, so I imagine it's not the last time we're going to see a Jared Curtis headline. Do you have one final thought on the things that we might see and maybe why Georgia fans should get concerned over little things like that?
Yeah, I think it's just par for the course, Kaylee, and I know folks are not going to like me to say this, but I'm surprised none of these stories came up sooner. And what I mean by that is, Kaylee, we've been touting all fall that he might be the best player in the country. And those players are not supposed to just come to Georgia easily. Everybody wants him. They see a guy that could play for 3 years, start for 3 years, and then go to the league. So, Georgia won this race twice, and it kind of been totally settled since May, when we were there in Nashville Christian, and we got the bottled water from the holy water, as you called it, at Nashville Christian.
Sitting right there
in the studio. So it's not supposed to be as easy as it's been. So there's probably going to be some late noise with a lot of schools trying to kick the tires on Jared Curtis. And they're going to say, hey, come on, Jared. You can play right away. We'll give you a lot of money. I mean, you're talking about a guy that is making a case right now as the best high school football player in America.
So that's the latest on Georgia's 2026 quarterback. Next, we're going to shift our attentions to a 2027 top target for the Dogs. But first, we want to remind you that here on Before the Hedges, we are brought to you by Kroger. It was another week of me using Kroger Boost. I used it on Monday, came to work, cold, raining. I knew it was never going to happen that I was going to make it to the grocery store. So now that the weather is like this and you're trying to get accustomed to it, the last thing that you want to do is have to go pick up groceries in person. Kroger Boost, make sure they deliver it right to your house, right to your doorstep, so that you never even have to step outside your house on a cold, rainy day. Also with Kroger Boost, not just that free grocery delivery, but also can save up to $1,000 per year with 2 times the fuel points. And right now you can try it free for 30 days. So for more information or to sign up, make sure to visit Kroger.com/boost. All right, so let's talk about a 2027, not just any 2027. This is a 4-star offensive tackle, Joshua Sam-Epelle, who's out of Douglasville, Georgia. He's the number 8 offensive tackle for the class of 2027, number 48 recruit overall. I could actually see him rising in the ranks. Clearly, in-state kid, big priority, but in terms of just the offensive tackle position and grabbing a big in-state recruit, how high is he on the priority list for Georgia's 2027 targets?
Kaylee, I've kind of maintained this. I think he's a top 5 guy for the entire class, especially if you want to protect a guy like Jared Curtis. Let me just hit you with a wowie right now off the jump. I don't know if I've ever seen a taller high school football player, a bigger high school football player. Here's why I want to say this. Now, I've seen wider, but not taller. 85-inch wingspan. I've probably seen 86, 87 in my time. But the thing here is, how you know a guy's tall, Kaylee, is when he says he's listen, the whole industry has him at 6 feet 9 inches, right? And he's like, no, man, I'm really only 6'8 3/4. That's when you know.
That's the way to do it.
When you wind it back, that's like you never hear like people talk about their age, and everybody tries to embellish or make it look better. And he's like, no, man, I'm only 6'8 3/4. I think I'm done growing. Main thing with Joshua is you just watch him. Now, I was at practice last week, and I was with Johnny White. We were watching the line go through their paces, right? And he says, I want you to look at this, Jeff. Johnny White, great dude. Love that guy. He goes, You see that guy next to him and that guy next to him? He said, Jeff, those are 6'5" and 6'6". And he makes them look like, he makes them look like it's the Island of Misfit Toys or something because they're like so short compared to this. It's really weird. Like we saw this with Amarius Mims, and that's the only other guy that comes to my mind. But Amarius was only 6'7" and some change. But like you put him on a line and there are other 6'4", 285 pounders next to him, and they look like cocktail shrimp next to him. And like Joshua, there's a lot of buzz right now about Joshua Sam-Epelle. I think Stacey Searles, if you asked him at the start of this, is like, if you can dial up, if like Kroger Boostish, if you could boost your offensive line class for the class of 2027, who would you want? Kelsey Adams is currently committed, and I think Joshua Sam-Epelle would be one of those guys as well.
So we're going to hear from him in just a moment, but I do want to ask you this. And 6'8" 3/4, 325. That's the clear advantage right there. But would you say that there's maybe a player comp for him? I know nobody comes close to the size, but in terms of just skill set and the way that he plays each week, is there a Georgia player that maybe reminds you of him?
Yeah, he just looks kind of like a bigger Mims or like a bigger. The one thing you have to do in talking about guys this big is you almost want to think of Ja Jackson. But it seems like Joshua Sam-Epelle has kind of figured out already all the things that Ja is still having to learn at the SEC. Kaylee, we're going to see clips of him. We're going to see highlights of him. He literally is like an eclipse. He doesn't need one thing he does is he talks about when you're the biggest guy on the field, you got to act like it. And you got to bring it a little bit, and you got to be a little nasty with it. He is naturally aggressive, which is great. Coach White says nobody beats him in the pass game simply because you got to go around like a walking bookshelf. Is what you got to deal with. But then the other thing is he's naturally aggressive, and he's a guy that you'll see on a lot of these clips. He likes to finish guys and let them know that, hey, I'll be here all day.
Well, let's just let the clips talk for themselves. This is our DawgNation conversation with the 4-star offensive tackle, Joshua Sam-Epelle.
Another trip to Georgia, what was that visit like for you?
Honestly, the experience was just crazy. I was at the Bama game, the Ole Miss game. Only difference was being nighttime and the day. It was a great time for sure.
I thought it was louder.
It was definitely.
The fourth quarter, it was louder.
Oh yeah, it got loud because the Dogs started to pick it up. We took that lead back from them, so I could see the shift in the game happen.
Joshua, how do you feel about the Dogs now, man? Obviously, they're after you. Obviously, you've been felt like a priority for a couple of years now, man. Well, how do you feel about Georgia right now?
They're pretty strong on my list. I'm not gonna lie to you. They've been here since my freshman year. They never left me. A couple schools have been there as well, like South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida State, Ohio State. So they're in there, but right now they're looking pretty strong.
What was the best? Was that the best visit you've ever had to Georgia?
What
would you say?
The Bama game was definitely the best.
Why?
It was a night game, and I haven't been to a night game yet. And then being that it was a big rivalry like that, definitely did it for me.
You going to Texas?
Yeah, I'm
Georgia
going.
Tech.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big one as well.
Does the fact that Dontrell and Juan get on the field early, does that jazz up your excitement about
it? It jazzes them up a lot because being that they could come straight out of high school right now and make a huge impact just shows like you go to Georgia and you're starting right now. In a couple of years, you're going to be a draft pick, 100%.
What does, when you go on a visit, like take this past weekend, for example, what does Coach Searle say to you? What does Coach Smart say to you?
They make it pretty clear that I'm their huge target for a 27th class. I know they picked up a couple guys like Kelsey Adams and I forgot his name, Kyson.
Yeah, Mallard.
Yeah, but they just make it clear that I'm a huge target for them, and I appreciate that because they're high on my list as well.
How happy do you think you'd make Kirby and Coach Searles if you did choose the Dogs?
I think I'd make them happy a lot. It's a big recruit to come to their school, and I honestly do want to come to that school, and I think that'd be a great fit for me.
Joshua, for you, this has been a year of redemption. I want to say this is your third year, but really it's your second year because you missed all of last year. Like the way you play, the way you've played, the way you've put good film down, do you almost feel grateful that you get the chance to do this?
Yeah, taking my season away my sophomore year was pretty devastating for me. So being able to bounce back from an injury like that and coming back and having a pretty good season so far is huge to me.
How would you describe how loud it was at Athens on Saturday?
It got loud. I could compare it to that Bama game for sure.
Joshua, for you, how do you play this game? Like, what do you look for? Like, what's your mentality when you're out there?
I mean, honestly, I got to go take it from somebody. I mean, being the biggest guy on the field, they're always going to overlook me. I'm just the biggest guy. But, you know, it all comes between the field and the hedges. I mean, every play I got to look to take something out from somebody.
6'8.5", 6'8 3/4".
Yeah,
What are
6'8"
you?
3/4.
And then, are you done growing? What's the doctor say?
Yeah, I'm done growing.
And then, what did you weigh when you went Georgia this weekend?
305.
305. Is that high or is that normal? Or is that good in-season weight for you?
That's what I weighed about last year.
What's the best part about playing for Douglas County for you? All these great coaches.
I mean, you know, my head coach right there, Coach White, is a great guy. You know, he did a great job developing me since I got here my freshman year. And being at Douglas County, we're a physical team. We're going to run the ball. We're going to pass the ball. We're going to have fun doing it.
Was everything he promised you, is it coming true?
Yeah. I mean, he told me when I first got here, I didn't have nothing. He told me just work, and it's all going to come. And, I mean, look at the situation I'm in right now.
Last question for you, Josh. What is the most favorite part of football to you? Everybody's got a different answer. It could be pancaking a guy for you. It could be celebrating. It could be hanging out with your teammates on the bus. Like, what's the best part of football
honestly,
for you?
Like, you know, I'm going to go out there and do my job, but seeing my teammates eat, you know, like watching my running back break a big run and score, that's pretty fun to me.
Awesome. Joshua Sam-Epelle, class of 2027. Everybody calls him 6'9". It's not because of his number. His number's 51, but they call him 6'9" because he's 6 feet 9 inches. One of the biggest dudes I've ever seen. Josh, thanks for some time.
Yes, sir.
I feel like in the same way that you can instantly spot someone like Elias Williams for the Georgia football team, if you're 6'8 3/4, 6'9", Joshua Sam-Epelle could be that for Georgia too. Like, you just know instantly who that is when you see him on the field. But, I mean, clearly had high praises for Georgia. 2027s are starting to make their commitments. How real is this between him and Georgia?
I think it's very real. I think, Kaylee, when it got serious was when he went to the Alabama game. Mm-hmm. He told me, and he looked up, and he saw Dontrell Glover and Juan Gaston Jr. starting as freshmen. And those were guys he played high school football against the previous year. So that path about if you're good enough, you're old enough. And, you know, Kaylee, I never thought I would see it. That's one thing I want to ring the bell really loud about with what's going on right now with Georgia. I remember 2017 season, Andrew Thomas is a true freshman. Georgia didn't really have anybody else. He started every game as a true freshman for a Georgia team that went on to win the SEC. Kelly, I never thought we'd see that again because Georgia gets these type of All-American dudes and they wait. Like, look how long Tate Ratledge had to wait. Dylan Fairchild had to wait. Micah Morris has had to wait. Ernest Green III, Monroe Freeling, all these guys have to wait. But, like, whether it's an opportunity or strictly the ability of Glover and Gaston to both be doing it at the same time. And one other thing, Kaylee, I want people to really get a little interested in. When you can show Joshua Sam-Epelle highlights, and he's just being Joshua. He's not pancaking anybody. He's just preventing, like he's the force field around the Death Star or something like that. But those clips, Kaylee, those were against Langston Hughes. Those were against Buford.
Tough teams.
Those were against Rome. These guys have dudes. And he's just neutralizing the guy on the other side.
Well, I'm glad that you bring up Juan Gaston and Dontrell Glover because we're about to have a conversation that involves the both of them. But first, we've got something so exciting coming up at DawgNation. We're calling it DawgNation on Tap. It's been so long since we've gotten to do an event in person this year, and it couldn't come at a better time. It is going to be the Thursday before Texas. That's Thursday, November 13th, taking place from 6 to 9 at the Terrapin Brewery in Athens. Now, it is a free event, but you've got to RSVP. You can do that by going to DawgNation.com/on-tap. We're going to have some special guests there, not just our DawgNation team, but former Georgia players. The first beer is on us. Sir Chero's, a big sponsor of DawgNation. They're going to be catering the event, so it's a good way to come hang out with the DawgNation team, some former players, get to try Sir Chero's if you haven't already, and then I love Terrapin beer. I'm excited about that, and the fact that the first one is on the house, that's a big deal. And two, the big surprise of the night, going to be doing a giveaway for the big game that Saturday, so can't win it if you don't try. Come and see us at the Terrapin Brewery in Athens, Thursday, November 13th from 6 to 9. And don't forget to RSVP at DawgNation.com/on-tap. All right, so what we're going to do is now that we're in the back half of the season, obviously Jeff and I do a lot of recruiting talk. It feels like we just got done covering the class of 2025. So we're going to do something a little bit different and do our top 5 true freshman performers of the year. And we're going to do it quick 5 style. This is in no particular order, but we're actually going to start with the only defensive player on this list, and that's the 5-star defensive lineman Elijah Griffin. So far this year, 12 tackles, just 1 tackle for loss, has played in the majority of the games. There was a high expectation for him coming into the season. Do you feel like he's met that this far, or does it just say a lot about Elijah Griffin that he's playing on the defensive line so early in his career?
Well, not only is he playing so early, Kaylee, I think he's got the second most snaps behind Christian Miller of anybody on the defensive line. And again, this is kind of his sacrificial lamb year where he's going to figure it out. He's going to be a freshman, 18-year-old freshman getting blocked by a bunch of 22-year-olds. And I think this last half of the season, you need to see a push. You need to see him break through that freshman wall, start making some plays. I think both him and Xavier McLeod and also Christian Miller, how those 3 guys go on the defensive line will increase that stop rate for Georgia on defense.
Yeah, for someone like Elijah Griffin, time is definitely on his side and will only play to his benefit. I could see a potential breakout game for the rest of the season, but if not, just year 1 to year 2 for him is going to make all the difference in the world. So he's going through it this year as a freshman, but the fact that he's even playing for this Georgia defensive line as a true freshman, I think that says a lot. So only defensive player on this list is Elijah Griffin. Now let's talk about 2 of the guys you and I just had a discussion about. The first one is Juan Gaston. Now, Juan Gaston was somebody that we talked about before the season as someone that could potentially find a role within this offensive line. A starting role, I don't know if we ever said that, but maybe, in that 2-deep rotation, just the size and the plug-and-playness. We knew it was a possibility. Now, he got thrown into the fire, but we are continuing to watch him get better in real time each week. Such a promising future, and he's really become one of the foundations of this Georgia offensive line this year.
Can't imagine what that guy's going to look like in 2027. Mm-hmm. Again, most people thought he would start out as a guard because that was the quicker way, but then an injury here, an injury there, and you got Big Juan really impressing a lot of people, Kaylee, and he's only going to get better. He's going to change his body around. He's going to get used to things. He's going to pick up his assignments. And again, you want to know how quickly Before the Hedges is to Between the Hedges? Kaylee, that was him last season. Just wondering, how am I going to get in? How am I going to play? And now look at him. He is a major part of Georgia's offensive line.
Perhaps somebody that we're not talking about enough just because we've talked about Juan Gaston so much is Dontrell Glover. Another offensive lineman went to Langston Hughes. Now, this was somebody that we really didn't have much to say about the role that he would have on this year's team just because we thought maybe the offensive line was a little bit deeper than it was. But he wouldn't be playing if he wasn't making a difference because there are more guys in this offensive line room that have been at Georgia for a year or more. And the fact that he is continuing to play each and every week, maybe the stats aren't there. I just don't think that he's getting enough credit for what he's done for this offensive line. And again, between him and Juan Gaston over the course of the next couple years, that is a lockdown offensive line room.
Kaylee, I'm going to roll up the volume a little bit. I think he's the best freshman on the team.
Ooh.
I think especially when you mark his contributions, Kaylee, another point to think about there is he didn't even show up in Athens until late May.
That's right.
He didn't get a I'm going to practice with the guys during the bowl game. He didn't get an off-season training. He didn't get, all those spring practices that Kirby Smart says is so vital for his future right there, Kaylee. He is a grown man already. He is extremely physical. He attempts to bend his face mask or the other guy's face mask on every snap. He hunts. He's got things you can't teach. And Donnie G is going to be a great football player for the next 3 years at Georgia as well.
All right, so now let's move on to Elias Williams. So far on the year, 4 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown. This doesn't really surprise me at all. He's really a unicorn. Even in a room of really talented tight ends, just the size and his diversity as a player, it really stands out amongst the rest. I don't even think that we've seen the best from Elias Williams this season. I think he's going to have one more game that reminds people of why he was such a high-profile recruit. I know that Ethan Barbour has has not been able to participate because of injury. Maybe that opened up the door for Elias. But in the moments and opportunities that Georgia has given him this far, he has not disappointed.
I mean, just look at him, Kaylee. He looks like a future first-round NFL tight end. 3 things to think about here. Number one, Elias does benefit from Ethan Barbour. Let's mention his name with respect. Ethan started game 1 of his freshman year at Georgia. Very, very hard to do. Nobody else on the team did that in this freshman class. Elias Williams, and I feel this way about Elias and Elijah Griffin as well, Kaylee. Watch those Coastal Empire dogs, those 912 dogs, those Southeast Georgia dogs. They tend to play very well and have moments like that in the Georgia-Florida game because really that is their rivalry. That is their game. That is when all their people can watch. They know well aware of that. I would look for Elias and Elijah to both have their own signature moment at one point in the Georgia-Florida game.
We've got one more name on this list. Maybe some people will be surprised to see this name. It's going to be Talon Taylor, who had the notorious drop against Alabama, started to redeem himself a little bit in the following games, and then gets hurt at practice. I believe he is out for a while. We initially thought it was going to be the rest of the season, but I think that Jeff maybe threw Talon on this list because he has something else he wants to talk about.
I just don't think the season is done for Talon yet. I mean, it's going to be close, but I can see him coming back and maybe playing in the playoffs if Georgia makes the SEC championship game. I think somewhere December-ish is when, he could probably come back from that. Look how Georgia's got that now with in the sling, they have a sponsor's logo on top of the sling there. That was pretty slick there for the ad wizards at Georgia. But I think he's a special football player, and there's a lot of names I could have mentioned. Zayden Walker's coming along. Some on the team feel like he's like the best pass rusher among the young guys that they've had so far. He has a knack for getting to the football. There's also a guy like, Dominic Nicholas Kelly, the guy that is the IMG guy who classed up, Mr. Kelly, in that class of 2025 as well. He's getting a lot of snaps, but I just think Talon, 5-star, I think he's got a little bit more for his first year in Athens than what we've seen so far. And let's also remember, Talon got on the field for Georgia as a gunner on the punt team. And after Georgia lost guys like Arian Smith over the last year, he went on to the NFL. I thought Talon did a really good job as a gunner on special teams for the Dogs.
So I know there's only 5 games left in the regular season. Who knows what happens after that? But I think back to last year's Georgia-Florida game where we saw Dwight Phillips Jr. have a touchdown. The team was so excited. This was not somebody that was on the radar at all. And even though that didn't really foreshadow the back half of the season for Dwight Phillips as a whole, but it was such a big moment for a true freshman. Is there any other freshman at this point through the next 5 regular season games that maybe we see appear or have a big performance or maybe start to break out?
I'd like to see a Bo Walker touchdown, maybe against Charlotte, something like that. It seems like he's gotten lost in the backfield a little bit, especially with all the buzz that we saw. But, I'm going to go back to that name I mentioned earlier, Kaylee. I really think Dominic Kelly is a guy that's going to play good football sooner rather than later for the Dogs. Again, these guys are true freshmen, but really Dominic should have been a senior in high school this year at IMG Academy. He classed up because he wanted to get to the smoke at Georgia a year earlier.
I mean, at this point, I think that anybody would be okay with just throwing different people out on the Georgia defense to see if something sticks. Okay, we got to keep going. Georgia Tech at the end of the regular season, and ticket prices are going up every single day because this game suddenly becomes more and more important. I think that Jeff and I have gone through 100 different scenarios as to how these teams come into the game, the outcome of it afterward, but now is the time to buy tickets. Do not procrastinate it anymore. This looks like it could be the game of the season for both teams. So go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium.com/events to purchase your tickets right now. Again, do not procrastinate. This game is really shaping up to be a historic Georgia Tech, and even though Georgia Tech is the home team, love to see that stadium packed out in more red than that white and gold. So Mercedes-Benz Stadium.com/events to purchase tickets. And with that, let's go ahead and do Mansell's details. ahead and start it off with some good news, and that's going to be Jay Lamar. Good news coming out of Moultrie, Georgia. Jay Lamar is back with Colquitt County in his first game back. 7 carries for 147 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 45-28 win over Camden County. This is a really big deal. I think that Colquitt needed him just as much as he needed Colquitt, so good to see Jay Lamar back playing high school football.
He was special, Kaylee. One of the things he did is that got him recruited and committed to Georgia. As you put the ball in his hand, I believe he ran a simple inside zone, but he hit it. And it was, in the words of his coach, Sean Calhoun, sayonara to the end zone. And I think it's interesting, this does bode well for his future because he's now back in good standing with his football team, Kaylee. Another thing about Jay Lamar is they tell me the staff believes he'll probably come off the bench for the rest of the year because that was the role that he worked in so well a year ago when he kind of burst onto the scene. And again, this has been a mercurial career, I guess we can call it that way, with Jay Lamar, but it seems like he has got his eyes on the prize, which is doing the right things. And I thought another neat little aspect of this story that we wrote on Friday night, we kind of broke that he was back playing, was this, the team, the seniors on the Colquitt County team, they came to Coach Calhoun and said, okay, this is a map. This is the framework about how he gets back. This is what he's got to do. These are the things that are going to be expected of him if he wants to get back on the field and play for us. And it does look like he served, I guess you would say, like an internal suspension for about 3 weeks.
So let's go ahead and show you some of our favorite clips from the week, starting with the 4-star wide receiver, Craig Dandridge, which he is going to play receiver for Georgia, but this is a defensive play that happened right in front of Kirby Smart.
Boom.
I just wanted to pause that way y'all could listen to the noise. That hit was so hard, crowd immediately starts going crazy. And even though Craig Dandridge is going to play wide receiver, this highlight happened right in front of Kirby Smart. Pressure was on. Craig Dandridge delivered.
I think Kirby needed some sort of a container of popcorn after that one. Kirby, being the DB he is, would probably say need to wrap up, shoot your feet, but loves the physicality there. I believe he'll be able to block for the Dogs, don't you?
Yeah, and I feel like he definitely saved that touchdown. So he finishes the night with 4 catches for 50 yards. They lost a tough game to a really, really good Kel team, but honestly, the defeat could have been even worse if Craig Dandridge didn't save it right there. So that's Craig Dandridge right in front of Kirby Smart. Now let's move on to another wide receiver in this class. This is Brady Marchese. So listen, this is confusing the first time you watch it because Cartersville is purple. Cartersville is not in purple tonight. That's the team they're playing. That's Hiram having to chase down Brady Marchese. Nobody's even close. Doesn't quite get it in the end zone, but a diving catch. And you see how far behind the defenders were. That just shows the Brady Marchese speed.
Got to give some props there to the video work being done there, covering these games. These are some really good NFL Films-ish imagery right here. They've slowed it down a little bit. And Brady, seems like we're calling his name much like Dandridge's name each and every week here on the Deets.
I mean, just the separation that he gets is incredible. He just has the 1 touchdown, but has 5 receptions for 84 yards and a 57 win over Hiram. I'm really manifesting that I'm going to get the chance to see Cartersville play soon so I can watch Brady Marchese. We've got a defensive player to talk about. This one's going to be Nick Abrams. You see him right there on the outside. Got to be a little bit patient with this clip because what he's going to do, he's going to go track down this quarterback, ends up getting the tackle for loss on the night.
So Georgia's edit staff, they put out a dog of the week, kind of like we do. I think we were at the starting line first on this, but they give them out to like multiple targets and multiple commits for outstanding superlative Friday night performances. Kaylee, this might not come as a shock to you, but this is the 4th time that Nick Abrams has earned a dog of the week honor from the Georgia recruiting staff.
And it looks like, right now Georgia could definitely use a QB spy. Seems like Nick Abrams does that well. They could probably use him right at this moment. He finishes the night 8 tackles, 3 of those for a loss, and also 3 quarterback hurries. Now, one more player that we wanted to mention, this is Jared Curtis, who's playing probably some of the most consistent quarterback play we've seen at the high school level in so long. 13 of 19 for 240 yards. Once again, 6 touchdowns. That's 12 passing touchdowns in 2 weeks for Jared Curtis. Also, Nashville Christian won its 19th straight game.
He did so while under the intense recruiting scrutiny of the Vanderbilt Commodores. I mean, Kaylee, how is he ever going to concentrate with all that flip action coming his way from comedians that most of DawgNation might not have never heard of until they saw him on College Game Day? But a lot of pressure for Jared that week, but it looks like he can still know how to spiral that football.
All right. Everybody loves anytime that a big man gets recognition. So that's what we're going to do here. It's our dog of the week.
I'm a big dog, no leash, you all bark, no teeth. That's a whole lot of wins on me. That's a whole lot of wins on me.
If an offensive tackle can get dog of the week over a quarterback that's got 6 touchdowns, you know those highlights are about to be impressive. 3 pancakes on the night, 9 tackles, and also 1 tackle for a loss because he does play both ways for his high school. It is Ekene Ogboko. I mean, at this point, I say we just go ahead and show you what we're talking about because seeing it is a lot different than hearing about it. So you'll watch him right there. I mean, just look at the strength. He never quits. He's making sure that guy is on the ground, even though that guy stands no chance. Just shows you the physicality and also just how strong he is as a player.
Watch him throw the hands, explosive off the ball, pad level, but he stands the guy up. And Kaylee, you know when you're facing Big 7-2, the other guy, you're like, I'm not going to show up on his highlight tape. I am not going to be one of those pancakes. And yeah, you are, buddy.
All right, let's show you another one of Ekene Ogboko's highlights. I think that this one's funny because if you continue to watch it, he almost pushes this guy out of the frame. So close. Again, just running guys over. It's hilarious because I can't imagine being the guy that has to go up against him every week, like knowing his size and knowing that you have to be that guy. But, oh, my gosh, he just never quit.
Kaylee, what do the cool kids say now? He's one of them ones, and this is what I mean by that. Ekene is the only true kind of left tackle prototype for Georgia in this class. The thoughts of Georgia pairing up him with maybe a guy like Juan Gaston in the future should get Dog fans really happy. But Kaylee, this was one of these performances where, yeah, he had his pancakes. Yeah, he did his job. He blocked his guy. But they ran right behind him on their way to, I believe, 300 yards rushing in a key kind of rivalry type victory late in the year.
All right, we've got one more clip of Ekene Ogboko, our dog of the week. Catch him right there on the inside. Still going, still going, still going. Finally gets him on the ground. I mean, Georgia fans have a lot to be excited about, not just with the size, but the talent level, and also, you know, his brother being at Georgia too. It's just, he could be someone that plays pretty soon in his career.
Kaylee, he's only a mere six-ish, you know, not a giant like we've discussed earlier with Gaston and Joshua Sam-Epelle, but both sides of the ball, Kaylee, the amount of stamina it takes, the motor it takes to have 9 tackles on the defensive side while also being the road grader on the offensive side, the first downs and touchdowns. Again, Ekene, there's nobody else in this class that Georgia is going to need to hit at the left tackle position, a true left tackle. Everybody else on the offensive line, Kaylee, they're all kind of hybrids. They're guard center types or maybe tackle guard types. You look at Ekene and you guys are just going to go, yep, that's what a left tackle looks like in the SEC.
So this week's dog of the week is the 4-star offensive tackle, Ekene Ogboko. Now, we're going to call this a detail. Kirby Smart coming up twice in Mansell's details. This week, it just goes to show you that recruiting never stops on the road. This is Kirby with Lane Kiffin's son, Knox Kiffin, who is a 2028 quarterback. He's chatting him up on the sidelines as the game is about to begin. And I don't imagine that they're talking about Lane right here.
Kaylee, do you think they're talking about hot yoga and like how much that works out right now? Or you think Kirby's cruiting?
I think Kirby's cruiting.
I mean, can you imagine? Now, he's a 2028 quarterback, and he's already said he wants his own thing. He's not going to play for his father. Can you imagine maybe Lane is still the head coach at Ole Miss or maybe Florida LSU, and he comes to Sanford Stadium and his son, 2028 guys, 2028. So that's like Jaden Wayne, that's Christopher Vargas, whatever. You know, Knox is just, I mean, this young Kiffin is just now starting to play. But can you imagine if any SEC rival has that young man as their quarterback facing their dad?
I do feel like, though, if Lane was going to approve of his son playing anywhere, it would be for Georgia, just because of he knows what kind of coach Kirby is. He knows how much he pushes their players. So, I mean, It's a long time before that's going to happen, but I do think it was interesting because we know how much Kirby values high school football, so I'm sure that he was chatting it up with Knox about the season that he's having and probably throwing a few jokes in there his way.
This just occurred to me, but the timing seems right, Kaylee. Knox was probably born when Lane was the head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers, don't you think?
Sure.
Named his son Knox after he living in Knoxville, perhaps?
Ooh, that's a big gamble to take.
I wonder, though. He's a very football-centric.
Why don't you ask him? SEC Teleconference, Wednesdays.
And we'll have to figure that out.
All right, so we've got a big game coming up on Saturday. It's probably my favorite game that we get to go to. And of course, that's Georgia, Florida, which means that we've got tons of game day coverage at DawgNation, including the DawgNation Game Day Show that's going to start at 1:30. It's me and my guy, Jeff Sentell, will also be joined by Cody Chaffins. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm just so excited. Really have to soak up the fact that this is the last game that's going to be played in Jacksonville for the next 2 years. So lots of nostalgia, lots of content. We hope that you will join us for that Saturday at 1:30, whatever platform you watch on. But if you happen to watch on YouTube, you can get the notification anytime that we go live by hitting subscribe and the bell that is right next to that. So subscribe for our content and join us at 1:30 on Saturday for DawgNation Game Day.
Kaylee, can I bring a special message to DawgNation right now?
Sure.
First of all, you talked about your kind sentiments for Jacksonville. It is the best road trip in the SEC
1,000%.
for Georgia. Myself especially, that's where I met my bride after the 37-17 win. When many moons ago in the 1997 season, it broke an 8-game losing streak to the Gators. But special shout out here. I've been invited. I love doing it. The Jacksonville Bulldog Club is holding its annual Florida meeting on Thursday night. Scheduled to appear is some guy that covers recruiting for DawgNation. I don't know who that guy is, but also Aaron Murray will be in the house, I'm told. So that will be a pretty good night. And I think the Jacksonville Bulldog Club is at the zenith and the pinnacle of the best booster clubs I've ever been around.
So excited to see them in Jacksonville on Saturday. Now, here's what we're going to do. There were no changes this week to the offensive, defensive position groups or the snapshot. Lots of changes, though, to the top target. So I say that we do no detail spared. Let's do the 2026 top targets. We're going to start with the guys who do not yet have a Georgia offer. That's Quantavious Wiggins, the running back out of Fairburn. Then you've also got a wide receiver in Jack Rhodes. Now, is there a certain time that you expect maybe these guys to pick up an offer, or what does it take for them to finally get that offer from Georgia?
I think it's going to happen kind of late, Kaylee, especially for Rhodes. They might just look at him as like best player available late in the class, depending on how everything happens. Again, Rhodes is at Aquinas in Augusta, currently committed to Virginia. He's a 3-star wide receiver, but he's doing a lot of other stuff. He's carrying the ball. He's serving as the team's quarterback as an injury stopgap, and he's acquiring that football player type tag, and we know how Kirby Smart and that staff loves that.
All right, so we've got another set of names to show you for the top targets. Lots of movement. You see here, okay, you can tell that if the arrow is going down, that means they have moved down the list. And then for Shadarius Tootle, we gave a star by his name. This is his star debut. He is on this list for the first time. So he finally enters the chat, even though he just flipped to Auburn. Jeff said maybe it's not over till it's over. Then you have a bunch of these names move down. So talk to me about the decision in putting Shadarius on this list.
I just don't know about the future of Hugh Freeze at Auburn, and especially how he's got to win out. He's got to win a lot of his games. He can't, go winless the rest of the way. I do believe the offer and the flip was contingent on being able to play with his older brother, a junior college prospect that not only Auburn offered, but they accepted his commitment in the 2026 class. So it's kind of a wait and see. But let me give some preface to this right here. Kaylee, everybody here in this range, I would put somewhere around chances of them winding up Dogs, probably 25-ish, 30-ish% right here.
I think the one that stands out to me on this list is Rashawn Duncan, who is a Washington commit, because, everybody else except for Shadarius, who's out of Mobile, Alabama, that's not too far from Georgia. But Oakland, California is kind of a far away place to recruit a 3-star cornerback. So, I mean, really, how much contact can they keep with him if he's all the way out in California and it's kind of easier to flip these guys that are in-state?
Yeah, it's easier, but I think one of the things, he's currently committed to Washington, Kaylee. That's something to monitor, and he's trying to get to Georgia. He was going to be in the house, I believe, for the Ole Miss game, had to reschedule because one of his games got rescheduled from a Friday to a Saturday night. And Kaylee, we all know about the tenuous status, perhaps at best, of Chase Calicut in this class. So there's definitely a chance there for Georgia. I think Rayshawn just has to visit. Also, Kaylee's really hot name because Oregon and Ohio State, not only Georgia, have been recruiting him of late.
Not surprising. All right, let's go for our top 5. So, we had some new names on the list this week. That's Elijah Littlejohn, the linebacker who's still currently committed to Penn State. And then Blake Stewart, 4-star linebacker, Woodward Academy. I saw him play earlier this year, both sides of the ball. He was incredible. A recent decommit. I mean, Georgia just lost a linebacker, and I find it very coincidental that now all of a sudden you've got 2 4-star linebackers on this list, Jeff.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think Blake Stewart's probably going to be a defensive back wherever he shows up. Again, he decommits from Clemson. That was interesting. You don't really see a lot of late season Dabo decommits, but I think that's a casualty of the Tigers in their season right now. But he can play. He's at Woodward. Everybody knows he could play. And he's one of those guys that Georgia would take in an instant because he's that type of player. Now, again, I don't know if Georgia was the trigger for this as much as he just visited Vanderbilt before he decommitted as well. So I think maybe for Vanderbilt to be able to woo not only a Clemson commit, but a Georgia commit at the same time. I don't know if any comedians called out Blake Stewart as of yet, but I think that guy's going to be like a safety DB type, and he's got a very bright future.
But with the way that the 2026 classes have really started to, I don't even want to say shape up. They've already been shaped. There's not that much room for a lot of teams. He wouldn't decommit from a Clemson program if he wasn't 100% sure that he had options that would take him this second. So even if he doesn't go to Georgia, that's when I'll be very curious to see how it turns out because I saw him play both sides of the ball. He was incredible. So he's going to be a good fit anywhere.
Yeah, Miami's another school to watch for there as well.
Yeah, I was going to say I saw where John Tavius Wyman may have had something to say about that. All right, so there was a final thought that you wanted to end on. I know it involves the Georgia legacy, Carter Lucky. What's the update?
Yeah, it was a senior night last Friday night, and it's kind of some bad news, or we're going to cross our fingers that it's nothing really serious, but Carter suffered an injury. Carter Lucky, the 2026 defensive line legacy, that's Lawson's younger brother, and that's Miles, Dustin, and Mike Lucky's, of the Lucky lineage there at Athens. He's got, I guess it's kind of being diagnosed today, but likely not to require surgery. But his patella, there's something happened there with his knee. He got fell on by like 3 guys and didn't come out of that well. And it looks right now, especially because Carter wants to err on the safe side of being ready to go in Athens as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. It looks like that's going to kind of end his senior season there. Again, it happened on senior night at Norcross while facing North Gwinnett. Zach Lewis plays for North Gwinnett, but that's the type of news. You always try to monitor these commits, but you hate it when the senior year doesn't end on their terms there for him at Norcross.
Yeah, sending only the best thoughts his way, hoping for a quick recovery. That way he can be ready by the time that he comes to Athens. Well, guys, this is going to wrap up today's episode of Before the Hedges. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to join us for DawgNation Game Day at 1:30. Y'all go check out Go With The Flow as well as DawgNation Daily tomorrow morning. And with that, we'll see you right back here next Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
So Georgia, who I'm picking, I love the family atmosphere in a way.